The night before our wedding, my fiancée said she was staying at her sister's. Her phone died at midnight. I got worried. Her sister texted back, "She's not here." I tracked her AirPods. They were moving south. I drove 40 miles. Found her car at a rooftop hotel. 2 wine glasses. 1 bed. She never saw me. Next morning, she walked down the aisle smiling. The priest asked if I took her as my wife. I turned to the guests and, "My name is Evan Reed, and I was supposed to get married on a Sunday morning in early June." We'd picked the date because it meant something to Olivia, my fiancée. It was the day her grandparents got married. She told me once that if we made it through this date, we'd last forever. I believed her. The day before the wedding was supposed to be uneventful. Our vendors had all checked in. The flowers had arrived. My tux was ready at the venue. Olivia had gone early to her bridal suite with her maid of honor, and I was staying at my best friend Marcus's apartment across town, like we'd planned. We'd agreed to spend the night apart for tradition's sake and to avoid any last-minute pressure. We'd skipped the rehearsal dinner. Olivia said she wanted something low-key, which I respected. I ordered Chinese takeout with Marcus, and we spent most of the evening watching a baseball game while making jokes about how my life was about to change. Around 8:30 p.m., Olivia sent me a message. "Hey babe, change of plan. I think I'm going to crash at Claire's tonight. Too much chaos at the suite." Claire was her older sister. They were close, sometimes too close. Claire was also the type to micromanage everything, so it made sense if Olivia wanted a calmer space before the wedding. I texted back right away. "All good. Do you want me to drop off your things there?" She replied, "No, I already brought them earlier. Just needed to breathe. Talk tomorrow, okay? Love you." The message seemed fine, but something about the tone felt off. No emojis. No hearts. She almost always called when we said goodnight. But I didn't overthink it. I let it go. I figured wedding stress was just wearing her down. Around 10:15 p.m., I called to check in. It rang once, then went to voicemail. That wasn't too strange. She'd mentioned her phone battery had been low earlier that day, and Claire's apartment was known for bad reception. I sent a short follow-up. "Let me know you're good. Sleep tight." By 11:45 p.m., nothing. The message was still undelivered. That's when I opened the Find My app. We'd kept location sharing on for over a year. It wasn't a trust issue. It started when she got a flat tire on the freeway during a snowstorm, and we never turned it off. I clicked her name. Her AirPods were active, not far from her phone, and they were moving. The Bluetooth had left what I assumed was Claire's address 40 minutes ago. I zoomed in on the route. Southbound. Out of the city. Heading down toward the suburbs off I-95. At first, I told myself maybe she and Claire went for a late-night drive. But the more I stared, the more that theory fell apart. Claire lived in the opposite direction, and Olivia hated driving at night. At 12:06 a.m., I texted Claire directly. "Hey, just checking, Olivia still with you?" The read receipt appeared within seconds, followed by a short, uneasy reply. "Wait, I thought she was staying at the suite." That was the moment I stood up. Marcus noticed right away. "What's going on?" he asked. "I'm not sure," I told him. "But I need to go." I didn't explain much. Just threw on my jacket, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. The AirPods signal had stopped moving and was now fixed at a location in Newford, a town about 40 miles south. I knew the area vaguely. My cousin had once lived nearby. As I drove, the roads were mostly empty. Each time I glanced at the phone mounted on my dashboard, the location stayed the same. A hotel. Rooftop Oaks. Boutique style. Not cheap. Known for its rooftop views and champagne brunches. Not the kind of place you go to alone at midnight. I pulled into the lot around 1:10 a.m. The front desk had the usual soft jazz playing through the lobby speakers. I walked inside and checked the digital directory screen. Nothing showed room numbers, but I recognized Olivia's car parked in the lot. Gray Mazda sedan, slightly dented back bumper, and the old USC alumni sticker still barely holding on. I didn't go up right away. I waited 10 minutes in the car, unsure of what I'd do if I saw her. Eventually, I walked in and asked if there were any rooms available on the upper floors. The clerk looked half asleep, but gave me a key card for room 812 on the top floor after I paid cash. I didn't give my name. The elevator ride up felt like it lasted an hour. When the doors opened, I walked slowly down the carpeted hallway, listening. Room 808. I didn't need to get too close. I heard her laugh. It was unmistakable. Olivia had this short, breathy laugh when she was trying to impress someone. I'd heard it enough times at dinners with clients, back when she worked events. I stopped outside 810 and leaned back against the wall. I kept my phone low and started recording video. The hallway was quiet, except for the soft murmur of conversation coming through the door of 808. Then I heard the second voice, male, confident, familiar, but I couldn't place it. I waited. At 1:37 a.m., the door opened. I peeked. She was barefoot, wearing a navy robe I didn't recognize. He was taller than me, wearing jeans and a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled. His hand was on her back. They stepped into the hallway for just a second to pick up something left outside, a bottle of wine in an ice bucket. Olivia giggled. He whispered something. She smiled and kissed his cheek. I ducked back toward my room. My pulse was racing, but I didn't move. I waited until I heard the door click shut again. Then I walked past one last time, holding my phone steady. I captured the door, the ice bucket, their shoes outside the room, the 2 wine glasses. I didn't film faces, not yet, but I had enough. Back in my room, I sat on the edge of the bed for nearly an hour. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't even think about calling her. I just sat there watching the footage over and over, listening to her laugh with someone who wasn't me. And the wedding was supposed to start in 8 hours. The walls in the hotel were thin. Every now and then, I could hear muffled laughter from the room next to mine. Room 808. Hers. I knew it was Olivia's because I asked the front desk during check-in. I acted casual, said I had friends staying there, couldn't reach them, just wanted to make sure I was close. The clerk didn't think twice. Said, "Let me see. Room 808. Olivia Evans checked in around 10:20 p.m. My fiancée had told me she was at her sister's, but she checked into a rooftop hotel 2 hours before I texted her goodnight. I had the reservation timestamp, her car in the lot, and now her voice coming through the wall, mixed with his. Around 2 a.m., I cracked my door open. I kept the hallway light off. Their room was directly across from the emergency stairwell, giving me a slight angle to watch from the shadows without being seen. A little while later, their door opened again. She stepped out, barefoot, hair up, holding an empty wine glass. The man followed a moment later, holding the bottle. They didn't see me. She laughed quietly as he leaned against the doorframe, pouring what little remained into her glass. That laugh, bright, light, familiar, stung more than I'd expected. It was the laugh she gave when she wanted to make someone feel special. I remembered hearing it across the room at my cousin's wedding when she first met my mother. Back then, it had made me fall harder for her. Now it felt like a performance. She turned to go back into the room and said, "One more glass, then I swear I'm kicking you out." He chuckled and stepped in behind her. The door closed. The lock clicked. I stayed crouched in the stairwell, quiet and still. I waited another 10 minutes before walking over. I got low, held my phone camera to the small gap under the door. From the faintest sliver of light, I could see 2 pairs of shoes, hers and his. Then, faintly, the shadow of legs crossing the room. I couldn't hear what they were saying anymore, but I didn't need to. I wasn't there to catch words. I was there to catch facts. I stepped back, recorded the door number again, the shoes, the bottle on the floor, the time on my phone. Then I returned to my room and began uploading the clips to my cloud folder, just in case. I labeled them with the date and time, keeping it all neat. I didn't want this to turn into one of those arguments where she could twist the narrative. I wanted everything timestamped, undeniable. At 3:30 a.m., the hallway was silent. I walked past again. The wine glasses were gone. The ice bucket was still out, half melted. Their shoes were still side by side outside the door. 1 pair of brown loafers. 1 pair of flats with a silver bow. Hers. I returned to my room and sat in the armchair by the window. The city below was mostly dark, with only the occasional taxi or blinking traffic light breaking the stillness. I thought about what I'd say, what I'd ask, but every version of that conversation felt hollow. Nothing she could say would make this better. There wasn't a reason, not one that would change what I'd seen. I didn't sleep. At 6:15 a.m., I packed up and left the hotel without checking out in person. I walked to my car and passed her vehicle again. Same spot. The dew on the windshield meant it hadn't moved. I drove home in silence. No music, no talk radio, just the sound of the road and the occasional thump of a passing truck. At a red light, I glanced at my phone. No missed calls, no texts. It wasn't until 8:20 a.m. that Olivia finally messaged. "Morning, love you so much. Can't believe it's today." I stared at the screen for a full minute. She was pretending everything was normal, like the night hadn't happened, like she hadn't spent it with someone else. Part of me wondered if she thought I wouldn't notice. Or maybe she thought she'd gotten away with it. Maybe that's how it had worked before, if this wasn't the first time. But I didn't reply. At 9:10 a.m., I pulled into the venue's parking lot. It was a country estate just outside town. White columns, open courtyard. The florist was already unloading arrangements. Olivia's mother was talking to the event coordinator, pointing at chairs. Everyone was calm, cheerful. The weather was perfect. Marcus met me outside the groomsmen's suite. "You good?" he asked, giving me a firm pat on the shoulder. I nodded. "Let's just get through the day." He didn't push. He'd known me long enough to recognize when I was holding something back. But he also knew I was the kind of person who needed time to think before reacting. Inside the dressing suite, I changed into my tux. The photographer came in and snapped the usual buttoning cufflinks shots. I smiled when asked, tilted my head when prompted, played the role of the groom. At 10:15 a.m., I saw Olivia for the first time that day. She was in her dress, lace sleeves, fitted waist, long train. She looked exactly how I remembered from the fittings, only more polished. Her hair was swept up into a soft bun with little pearl pins tucked in. She was glowing. She didn't look guilty or nervous. She looked radiant. When she saw me, her whole face lit up. "There you are," she said, walking over to squeeze my hand. "Are you ready?" I nodded. "You look beautiful." "Thanks," she whispered, resting her forehead against mine for just a second. "Let's make today perfect." It took everything in me not to say something right then. But I didn't. Not yet. Let her walk into that aisle smiling. Let her think everything's fine. Let her believe it right up until the moment she hears the footage play. The ceremony was set for 11 a.m. sharp, and by 10:40, every seat in the courtyard was filled. The musicians had started playing a slow, instrumental cover of a pop song I didn't recognize, and ushers were guiding late guests to the back rows. The weather couldn't have been better: clear skies, gentle breeze, not too warm. It was the kind of day couples dream of. Every little detail Olivia had stressed over for the past year was falling into place. The floral arch was perfect. The chairs were arranged in neat, precise rows, just the way her Pinterest board had shown. Everything was immaculate, and no one knew what was about to happen. I stood at the front with the officiant, Father Grant, a priest Olivia had grown up with. He was a kind man, mid-60s, quiet but warm, and I'd seen him cry at other weddings. He looked at me as we waited and said, "Nervous?" I smiled politely. "A little." He chuckled. "It's good to be nervous. Means you care." I didn't answer. I was watching the entrance. Olivia appeared exactly on time. The music shifted. The crowd stood. She was walking down the aisle, arm in arm with her father, her veil draped softly over her face. The train of her dress followed behind her like a cloud. Every single guest turned to admire her. She looked straight ahead, calm and glowing. To everyone else, she was a vision of joy. To me, she looked like someone who had no idea she was walking into a storm. I watched her the entire time, not because I was in awe, but because I wanted to capture the exact moment it all turned. When she reached the front, her father lifted her veil and kissed her cheek. She smiled at him. Then she turned to me and whispered, "Hi." I said nothing. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. She probably thought it was nerves. We faced the priest. Father Grant began his opening words, something about love, commitment, and unity. I didn't hear most of it. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. The camera guy was walking slowly around the guests, getting the wide shots. The screen Olivia had insisted on setting up behind the altar, so the guests in the back could see our vows more clearly, was active, showing a slideshow of childhood photos and memories of us as a couple. I had asked the tech team to give me access to the media controls, citing a surprise I wanted to show during my vows. Olivia never questioned it. Father Grant eventually got to the main portion of the ceremony. "Now," he said, looking at me, "Evan Reed, do you take Olivia Evans to be your lawfully wedded wife?" I didn't answer. The air shifted. A few people in the back laughed nervously. Olivia glanced at me, then at the priest, then back at me again. "Evan," she said quietly. I stepped back. Then I pulled a small remote from my pocket. There was a slight pause as I clicked it. The slideshow behind us disappeared. The screen went black. For half a second, there was confusion. Then the first video clip began. The footage was shaky but clear. It was the hallway of Rooftop Oaks Hotel. The door to room 808. The timestamp read 2:17 a.m. the night before. The audience murmured. The second clip played. Olivia's silhouette, barefoot, reaching for the wine glass. The man standing behind her, hand on her waist. Her laugh. The door closing. The audio wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Gasps broke out across the courtyard. The video cut to the still shot of her shoes next to his outside the door. The melted ice bucket. The 2 wine glasses on the floor. The door number. Clear as day. People were frozen. Olivia didn't move at first. She stared at the screen, not blinking. Then she turned to me, mouth slightly open. "Evan, what is this?" I didn't look at her. I addressed the crowd. "This was recorded at 2:17 a.m. this morning," I said evenly. While Olivia told me she was staying at her sister's place. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just told the truth. She lied to her family. She lied to me. She walked down this aisle knowing I knew. And she said nothing. Her mother stood up in the front row. "What is going on?" she asked, nearly in a panic. Claire looked around, stunned. I turned to Father Grant. "I think we're done here." He looked pale, but he nodded. Olivia reached out for my arm. "Evan, wait. Please, just let me explain." I stepped away. "You had all night to explain." Nothing happened, she said too quickly. It wasn't. He's just a friend, I swear. You checked into a hotel with him. You poured wine. You laughed. You slept there. You lied to every single person here. And I don't think you're sorry. I think you're just scared you got caught. The guests were standing. Phones were already out. Someone in the second row whispered, "Is this real?" I turned back to the crowd one last time. "Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry you had to see this. But at least now it's honest." Then I walked off the platform and out of the courtyard. Behind me, I heard her crying. Someone tried to console her. Chairs scraped. Voices rose. A few guests ran after me. But I didn't stop. I left Olivia standing there, in a dress she didn't deserve to wear, in front of a room full of people who would never forget what they'd seen. And she knew exactly why. I didn't stop walking until I reached the gravel path behind the venue that led back to the guest parking lot. A few voices called my name, but I didn't respond. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I'd said what needed to be said in front of everyone who needed to hear it. When I reached my car, I sat inside for a moment with the engine off. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. The tension that had built up over the last 10 hours was gone, replaced with an odd clarity, like the pressure had finally broken and left nothing but silence in its place. My phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from Olivia. Then a 4th. I ignored them. Then Marcus texted, "I'm proud of you. That was brutal. She's freaking out." I replied, "Thanks. I'll talk to you later." I didn't drive straight home. I drove to a small diner about 15 minutes down the road. It was nearly empty, the kind of place with laminated menus and burnt coffee that tasted like comfort food from another decade. I ordered eggs, toast, and a side of bacon. I hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours. The waitress didn't recognize me, didn't ask if I was okay. She just poured coffee and left me alone. While I ate, I scrolled through my phone. A few guests had already posted vague comments on social media. Never seen anything like that at a wedding. Some truths are harder than others. Wildest ceremony I've ever attended. No names. No direct tags. But it wouldn't take long before everyone pieced it together. That part didn't concern me. I wasn't trying to humiliate Olivia for sport. I just didn't want to marry a liar. And I wanted everyone who stood with her to understand why I walked away. By the time I finished my coffee, I had 12 more missed calls and 6 messages from Olivia. "Please, Evan, can we talk? That guy doesn't mean anything. I swear nothing happened. I was just scared. That's all. I panicked. We can still fix this. Please, I need you to answer me." I didn't reply to any of them. I didn't delete them either. I just put the phone face down on the table and watched the steam rise off the last sip of coffee. The only text I sent was to the venue coordinator. "Please cancel the reception. Charge any remaining balance to my card. Don't let Olivia authorize anything further." She responded with, "Understood. I'm so sorry. That was unexpected. You handled it with grace." Grace wasn't exactly what I felt, but I appreciated the sentiment. By noon, I was back at my apartment. Marcus showed up an hour later with my overnight bag from the venue. He didn't say much, just handed it over, sat down on the couch, and flipped on the TV. "You're not going to check your phone?" he asked after a few minutes. "No." "Good." I could tell he wanted to say more, but he respected the silence. He stayed for about an hour, then left me with a 6-pack and some leftover wedding cake that the caterer had already boxed. We both laughed a little at that. Around 3 p.m., my doorbell rang. I didn't answer it. I checked the peephole. Olivia was standing there, still in her wedding dress. The makeup around her eyes was smudged. She looked like someone trying to pretend she hadn't made a decision she couldn't take back. She didn't knock. She just stood there. Eventually, she sat on the floor outside the door. I waited. After a while, she spoke. "Evan, please. I messed up, okay? I made a mistake. I got scared. You were so good to me, and I don't know." I panicked. I thought maybe I wasn't ready, but it didn't mean anything. I swear, I didn't sleep with him. We drank wine. We talked. That was it. I got a room because I didn't want to be around people who would ask me if I had cold feet. That's all. I didn't respond. "I love you," she said. "I really do." She stayed for 20 more minutes. Then she left. Later that evening, Claire texted me. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I'm furious with her. She betrayed all of us." I didn't know how to reply to that either. It wasn't Claire's fault, and yet, it was hard not to lump everyone into the same cloud of lies. A few of Olivia's friends tried messaging too. Most of them took her side or asked for her version. I didn't respond to any of them. I'd seen her version. I documented it. And I had no intention of walking back into that story. The next morning, I called the bank and had her name removed from our joint account. I canceled the lease application we'd submitted for the apartment we were going to move into after the honeymoon. I sent the ring back to the jeweler. It hadn't been engraved yet. I asked my office for the rest of the week off, citing a personal emergency, and they didn't ask questions. I didn't need revenge. I didn't want to ruin her life. I just didn't want to build mine around someone who could look me in the eyes, kiss me on the cheek, walk down an aisle in front of our families, and still think none of it mattered. I wanted out, and I was already gone. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.